Hi there, class. Today I'd like to talk about saving orthographic views in SketchUp. And one of the things that's kind of surprising is that saving scenes that are orthographic has a lot to do with how you have set up your styles. And styles are another feature of SketchUp. So first of all, let me save a few scenes here in our base model of the SketchUp project. I'm going to click the section tool. It's facing down, and of course that's handy. I don't want it to face up, so if I want it to stay facing down, I can hold down Shift to lock that inference, and then click high up on the wall to cut away the model. And as I might have mentioned in class, this is a really handy view to have when you're space planning. The only thing is that it's kind of nice sometimes to turn off this section plane. This orange bounded grayish kind of area is called section plane. And you can control that separately. Just under the pull down menu, you can uncheck section planes. You see how it's no longer visible. And I like this view, so I'm going to save it as a scene. Now I'm just going to right click here on this current scene that I have and add a new one. Now the last time we talked about adding scenes, I just said, well, you know, just click this save as a new style button and create a scene and don't worry about it so much. Well, now we're going to worry about it. You still do want to create a new style. And I'm going to call up the Styles menu and show you what's going on. The Styles menu, these are the styles that are available in this model right now. These are the ones that are used in different scenes. And you can obviously choose new ones, but I'm just going to display the ones in the model. The one that's a simple style is the one that came with the default template of SketchUp. Now this simple style one, that's the copy I just made. And if you click on these scenes, what you'll see is the style that is used in that scene is highlighted. So when I click on scene 2, see how it says simple style 2. And in fact, I'm going to call up my scene manager. I'm just going to right click on the scene and choose scene manager. The scene manager lists all the scenes in the project, and if you don't see the details down at the bottom, just click this little show details button. That shows you all the stuff that your scene is remembering. So sometimes these are unchecked. If they are unchecked, that's a good indication that you're probably going to have trouble saving these orthographic views, because the sections in particular are the ones that we want the scenes to remember. Okay, so right here where it says style and fog is a whole nother matter. We'll talk about that some other time. But the style is what we want these scenes to remember. And in fact, I can rename these scenes right here. Just right click on it here, and you see how it changes up in the tabs at the top. Now these styles, the style that I changed to have no section, have the sections available, I'm going to rename that sections on, and I'll even give it an exclamation point for emphasis and hit enter. Now when I do that, you see how I have an update button here. That indicates that the style has been changed. Now I haven't changed anything graphically about the style. It's still basically showing textures, and it has a section plane active, but they're not visible. I'm going to hit update style. Now if I had other scenes with this style applied, it would remember and it would change those other scenes for any graphic changes I might have had here. Now, just to show you the difference between styles, I'm going to set up a little perspective view. I'm going to position my camera in the corner of the space. And we did this before in class. I can look around so I can have a nice view of the model. And I'm even going to turn off the section cuts so that I can see the ceiling. And as again, as we saw before, I can click the zoom tool and I can change the field of view to something a little more appropriate for an interior design view. And I'll just center that view. Now, I've made a number of changes. I've turned the section plane off. I've changed the field of view. And obviously, I've changed the camera position. So I want SketchUp to remember that. I'm going to right-click on my scenes, and I'm going to choose Add. And of course, because I have the menu open, I could also just click the little add button, but it's an old habit. Now, this menu pops up one more time and it says, what do you want to do? Now, I don't want to change the scene I have set up for my overview. I want to save it as a new view. I'll create a new scene, and I'll create that new scene. And if I go to my styles menu and I check out what's in model, oh, there's another one. I have simple style, simple style where I've changed it to be sections on, and now I have this another one that says sections on with number 1 next to it, which means I've made a copy of it. I'm going to call this one sections off, an exclamation point, again for emphasis, and I'll hit enter and update this style. Now what you should have is an overview where the sections are on, so the style where the sections are on is applied to that scene, and then I have another scene where they're off. If for some reason things have gone awry, let's say I have this simple style accidentally applied, and a lot of you have this problem where the section keeps activating in the scene, find your style where the sections are off and double click on it to apply. And some of you might be like, well, all the buttons look the same. You can sort these in a number of different ways. I can have it as a list view, and that sometimes is easier to find. Double click on the sections off, and then you can update your scene. And I'm just going to right click on the scenes manager. And by the way, if you don't do this in the scenes manager, it often doesn't take. Now watch what happens when I choose update scene. It gives you gives me a little menu that tells me everything it's going to change about my scene. Now most of these haven't changed except for that style menu. So when I click update, it will do it. When you right click on a tab up here and choose update, it doesn't remember all of those different features. So by all means, have that scene manager open. Okay, and this is great if you want to set up, say, another perspective here. I can come in and use my little position camera button, and I can set up another view of the space, and I can add this scene. Okay, so each of these scenes, if I go to my styles menu, it should, here I'll display these as little thumbnails. It should have the scenes off style applied to that scene. Okay, interior perspective 2 maybe is what I'll call this, and scene 3 I'll call interior perspective 1. So anyway, and that just helps me remember it. Okay, so that is kind of how you set up the styles to handle whether or not the section planes are on or not. Now I'm going to go back to my overview here, and what I want to do, I'm going to turn off those menus. I'm going to put in a new section plane for my floor plan. Now floor plans you typically cut at about 3 feet. Now I probably could measure that and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do that because that's way too organized for me. And I'm going to call up my styles menu, and I'm going to make sure that the style with sections on is applied. You see how I can see my section planes? I know that something's not right there. If I double click on sections on, see how they all go away? And now I know that I've definitely got the right style applied here. Now, I want this to be a floor plan, but what I want to do, floor plans, first of all, floor plans are orthographic. So I have to tell SketchUp to make this a parallel projection. And what that is, there's no perspective anymore. It's now an orthographic view. The other thing is that I want to take advantage of SketchUp's standard views. These views force the model to be either perfectly vertical to the camera or perfectly horizontal in the case of some of these other ones. So if I choose this top view, now I'm looking at this floor plan from exactly above. So this is a true floor plan. Okay, and what I can do is I can just add this as a scene. Of course, I probably want to rename this so that I can remember what it is. So let's call it a floor plan. Okay. If you're on a Mac, by the way, you can just right-click on this and rename it. So now I have a true floor plan, and it has the style that is the correct style applied. So it's easy enough for SketchUp to remember that the section planes need to be off. And I can continue to do this. For example, I want a section cutting through the middle of this project. I can just use my section tool, lock the inference going in this vertical direction. And then once again, I can use one of my standard views. Now what I'm going to do, I'm on a PC and I can call up menus very easily on a PC by right-clicking on a blank area of the menu toolbar, and I'll call up the Views menu. You can see it's already active there. On a Mac, you have to drag it onto the toolbar, which is, not a huge amount of work, but it's enough that I don't going to show it right now. Anyway, SketchUp has these standard views, which are conveniently look like little houses, so you can kind of get a sense of what you're looking at. If you just click on the front view and make sure that you're in parallel projection, well, there you go. You've got yourself a true section drawing. Okay, that is a section of the model because there's no perspective and it's in this front view. Okay, the only thing that I need to do now, I'm going to go back, call up my styles menu, make sure that my sections on style is applied. And then I'm actually going to call up my scene manager and I'm going to add it using the scene manager, and I'll rename it section longitudinal. And longitudinal, by the way, just means it goes along the long axis of the project. Okay. Now, maybe I'll put in one more that is a section facing the other way, just so I can complete my project here. There we go. And this is one of the side views. I can never quite remember which one. Maybe it's always the other one from the one that you select. And again, you want to make sure that orthographic is turned on, this parallel projection, and make sure that your style is set to sections on. And now you can come to your scenes menu and add this scene, and I'll rename it section transverse. And that basically means it's going across the long axis. All right. Now, if you're like, geez, I'm not really sure if these are working, how can I tell? Well, a quick way is you can come here to your tabs and just start clicking and make sure that in each view you're seeing or not seeing sections and section planes. Okay. So in the overview, the section planes disappear, the model's cropped away. In the floor plan, I am indeed seeing a floor plan. And then, of course, the longitudinal sections and the transverse sections, I'm seeing what I think I should see. And in the perspective views, I'm not seeing any section planes whatsoever. Now, the last thing that you can do to these models to kind of gussy them up, I'm going to go back to my sections, my styles menu, and there's a couple of things that you can do in these views to make them look a little more, I don't know, construction-y. So I have my sections on style selected here, and what you'll notice, there's a couple of tabs in this menu, and one is an Edit tab. And there's a number of features to this tab accessed by clicking these little icons. For example, I can change the section cut width to a higher number. When I change that to 6, you see how these lines get a lot darker. Okay, sometimes it looks a little funny, but you can change that. You can actually even change the color of the section cuts if you want to go all radical on me. Anyway, each of these has something different. There's something called watermarks. One that I'm interested in, some people really like seeing the sky and the ground. Some people don't. So if I turn on ground, for example, you see how it turns a little, I don't know, sepia. Anyway, I can turn those off and I can make the background white. And this is awfully nice when it gets to putting together a sheet of drawings, because usually you don't show those features in the background of your orthographic views. So I'm going to turn those off. I'm going to also turn off the model axes. Those model axes, those are the red, green, and blue indicators. If you have a lot of guides, which you might if you use the tape measure tool, you can turn those off too. Okay. Now, anyway, and there's a number of other features that we can edit, including the transparency, and whether or not there are things like depth cues or not. A lot of people like those. The extensions make it look more hand-drawn, including also endpoints and jitter. I usually leave those off for things like section drawings. Anyway, once I've set that up, see how I have my Update Style button. Once I click to update the style, what you should see is that all views that use that style should now have this white background. Let's even try the floor plan. See how nice that is? Nice and clean. Now, if I go to my section view, the other thing that I can do is sections you typically have poche. Now, this can be a little challenging in SketchUp to draw poche because this is a 3D model, right? Everything is kind of part of a larger object. But you can try with these ceilings, for example, to double click on the ceiling to edit it. And then I can come in with a paint bucket. And maybe I'll paint it black because it's easy to see. So you see how I can paint inside this ceiling. And, you know, of course, the section view remembers it. Now, there's a couple of other things that I would want to paint if I am going to paint the sections. So I'll double-click on the walls and paint those black. This can sometimes backfire if you haven't painted the walls. But it's a nice way. You see how the section overall looks nice and black this way. You can also do that with the floor plan. Again, depending on whether or not you painted other things, you do have to be a little careful. But I'm going to double click on the existing conditions, and I'm going to use my paint bucket to try to paint the walls. Usually it works, but not always. So sometimes you have to double click in further to make it show up properly. But you can see that makes a fairly convincing plan. Even the transverse section, I probably need to paint this one too, because everything is 3D, everything is visible, everything has surfaces visible from different angles. So you do have to be quite careful and paint everything that you think deserves to be painted. Anyway, so that is how you save different views of your model. Within the SketchUp interface, you should absolutely have all these different views saved when it comes time to go to layout, because it will be so much easier if these are available and if your styles are organized when you get to layout.